Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is the Middle East. The Middle East has dramatically changed in just a few days. We're witnessing a whole new world order. President Donald Trump has reshaped the Middle East. The alterations are not yet complete, and there is much more to come as decisions are made, tweaked, abandoned, and reshaped. What we know for sure is that because of this President of the United States, new realities have emerged. Major winners in this massive shift are in order: Turkey, Syria, Yemen, Iran, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Major losers in order are Israel, Russia, China, and Egypt. These shifts, these changes are massive. Israel, the eye of the storm, has been sidelined. Not quite abandoned, but seriously sidelined. That's an important distinction. Israel, the country in this region with the most skin in the game, was taken out by surprise. Really, surprised by some of the regional players things that were going on, decisions that were happening. The Jewish state was neither consulted nor given advance notice about how her world was about to change. The shockwaves from the decisions that were earthquake-like throughout the region were felt most strongly throughout Israel. Know this: Donald Trump has not abandoned Israel. I say that with certainty. I do not for a moment believe, as many Israelis and many lovers of Israel believe, that the United States president has tossed Israel aside for the opportunity to make peace with countries that were long-held adversaries. True, Israel learned of the agreement reached by the United States and the Houthis from the internet news services. And just as true, that agreements the United States is making with Iran and Syria will benefit all their coffers. But he is not abandoning Israel. I have emphasized that. He is minimizing her place in his world order right now. President Donald Trump is not an ideologue. He's not a philosopher. He's not and does not subscribe to a philosophy. Donald Trump is a pragmatist. He has objectives and he has goals, and his task, his mission, is to accomplish those goals. He believes that military intervention is to be used only when all else fails. He believes that people in the Middle East will behave to maximize their economic and business interests. That good business relations with Iran, Syria, and Turkey will help everyone, even Israel, and especially the United States. Trump is not acting to protect Israel. He's acting to protect the interests of the United States and his interests, which are important too. And that is why he concluded an agreement with the Houthis to stop attacking maritime shipping lanes, to stop attacking commercial vessels, U.S. commercial vessels. He did not tack on that the Houthis should stop bombing Israel. The raison d'etre of the United States President Donald J. Trump is the best interest of the country he was elected to lead and to defend, and his best interests. That is why he is lifting sanctions on Iran and Syria. It is why Trump met the new dictator of Syria, al-Shara, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and shook his hand. It's why Erdogan of Turkey virtually joined the meeting on Zoom. It was Turkey and Saudi Arabia that brokered this historical meeting between Syria and the United States. When al-Shara of Syria agreed to the conditions that Trump stipulated, an agreement that leads to lifting the sanctions, Turkey will benefit. Without sanctions, Turkey can legally trade with Syria, and Turkey can help in the rebuilding of that war-torn country, which the United States and the international community will be sponsoring. Billions of dollars will be injected into Turkey's economy as they rebuild Syria. And the U.S. industries and markets will flow into Syria, allowing for natural gas and oil of Syria to be tapped by Uncle Sam. Qatar, wealthy Qatar, will be able to take advantage of Syrian markets also. Al-Shara is no saint. He's the head of ISIS forces in the region. His legions have been brutally murdering Syria's Alawites, the tribe that is part of the ousted dictator's family, Assad, that is. Under his tutelage, there has been a rampage murdering, attacking Druze villages in Syria simply because they are different. Different, that's it. Since assuming Syrian leadership, the Syrian dictator and terrorist is no longer using the name al-Golani or al-Jolani, depending on your Arabic dialect. He instead uses his name al-Shara. He has exchanged his terrorist fatigues for well-fitting business suits and ties. As for Iran, Trump agreed to allow for the ability to produce nuclear energy, but they must abandon their goal of attaining a nuclear weapon. For Iran, it's a deal worth doing. Once sanctions against them are lifted, they will catapult into the world economy. While the ultimate decision-making lies in the hands of the President of the United States, it's not a monolith. The repositioning of Mike Waltz from National Security Advisor to UN Ambassador gave the upper hand in the White House to J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Don Jr., both of whom strongly subscribe to the ideas of non-intervention and no boots on the ground, U.S. boots on the ground. Waltz, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, balance the president's inner circle and think otherwise. Now the non-interventionist camp has more of the ear of the President of the United States, President Trump. The new reality is that Israel and the status of Israel's safety is now the priority for Trump's calculus. That worries most Israeli leaders and thinkers. They are flummoxed. They do not know how to influence or help guide their longtime friend, President Trump. Secretly, many are quietly hoping, even praying, for the Iranians to scuttle their agreement and give the United States a foundation to reinstate the sanctions, even to sanction a military strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. They are hoping that the United States will realize that Israel understands the Middle East, understands the leaders, and understands how their regional partners play the game called peace and partnership. Now, wait and see. Coming up next, Points of View. First up is a column from Ynet. It was written by Ron Ben-Ishai. Published May 9th, Ben-Ishai is insightful and an exceptional thinker. This column is entitled, Trump's Quest for Foreign Policy Wins Could Jeopardize Israel's Security. Subtitle is Analysis. As Trump prepares for high-stakes Middle East trip focused on arms deals and Saudi nuclear ambitions, Israeli officials fear being sidelined on Gaza, Iran, and regional normalization efforts with strategic consequences. Now, Ron Ben-Ishai is prescient here. He literally predicted the success of the trip and exactly how the trip would succeed. Here I show Ron Ben-Ishai's main points. This is how he begins. Writing a horoscope might be more accurate than attempting to predict the next statements and moves of U.S. President Donald Trump. Astrology could be considered a hard science amid the uncertainty Trump has sown since entering the White House. But after more than 100 days into his second term, certain guiding principles behind his actions have started to emerge. Ron Ben-Ishai is 100% correct. There is no predicting Trump. That is both a strength and a weakness. He continues, it is clear that Trump and his inner circle are looking to rack up achievements in foreign policy, economics. The need to show results to the American public is meant to offset the damage caused by Trump's erratic tariffs policies, which have destabilized international trade and hurt the U.S. economy. Americans are beginning to feel the effects, rising prices and economic disruption triggered by Trump's unpredictable decisions. Ben-Ishai is explaining why and how Trump is thinking. He describes the different parties involved and how Trump is relating to each of these parties. Ben-Ishai writes, but Trump knows the Gulf states want more than just high-tech military gear. Even with the deliveries of F-35 fighter jets and long-range precision munitions, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, and Kuwait remain deeply concerned about Iran, specifically the potential for Iran to acquire nuclear weapons. That's why Saudi Arabia is pressing for American support to develop civilian nuclear capabilities. The Sunni states, especially Saudi Arabia, understand the United States will likely allow Iran to maintain a civilian nuclear program. And like Israel, they know the jump from civilian nuclear capabilities to weapons-grade programs isn't a difficult one, especially for wealthy oil states with deep pockets. Now Ben Ishai describes Netanyahu's position and why it is so critical. He writes, however, because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu strongly opposes both the return of Palestinian Authority to Gaza and negotiations on the Palestinian state, normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia appears to be off the table for now. The campaign against the Houthis cost U.S. taxpayers a fortune, and Trump does not like wasting money. Isolationists warned him of the potential quagmires, reminiscent of Bush and Obama in Iraq or Biden in Afghanistan, so Trump did what he does best, declare the victory, and ended the operation dubbed Rough Rider. Now it's pretty important. This is very valuable for us to understand. Maritime security is a major goal for Trump, the United States and Israel. Maritime security. The nuke question also must be addressed. And Ram Ben Ishai explains this. He writes, the original goal was to ensure free navigation through Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Red Sea for all nations. Yet the resulting agreement with the Houthis only guarantees safe passage for American vessels. Trump ignored the inconsistency. He wanted a win, so he claimed one. This is what deeply worries Jerusalem. Israeli officials fear that Trump will approach the Iran nuclear deal with the same way he handled the Houthis, by declaring a new agreement better than the one signed by Obama in 2015, even if it permits Iran to continue enriching uranium and remain a nuclear threshold state. In such a scenario, Israel might be unable to act militarily against Iran's nuclear program, even if it has the capability to do so. Now Ram Ben Ishai concludes by insisting that you must not misinterpret Trump. One must look at the big picture. He writes, but it would be a mistake to interpret Trump's decisions as rooted in a personal feud between Netanyahu. Trump acts on what he considers logical and necessary for an American perspective, or based on the last person he respects who whispered in his ear. Many in Israel, including this writer, already miss President Biden and his administration. Although they initially restricted Israeli actions and delayed arms shipments, Biden's administration offered clarity. You knew where you stood and what was possible. With Trump, every option is on the table, including the worst ones. Once again, an excellent piece by Ram Ben Ishai. Next up is a column by Per Anders, Rudling, and Ephraim Zuroff. It was written on May 15th, 2025. It was published in the Jerusalem Post. The column is entitled The Three Eyes, a solution to discern genocides from tragedies. Opinion subtitle, we suggest that every tragedy that might be classified as a genocide be tested by the three eyes: intent, implementation, and implications. This is how the authors begin. The accurate definition of genocide has become under scrutiny ever since the International Court of Justice accused Israel of committing genocide in Gaza in its response to the October 7th, 2023 attack by Hamas terrorists, which claimed the lives of 1,200 Israeli civilians and foreign nationals in communities in southern Israel, and participants in the Supernova Music Festival. The term, coined in 1944 by Polish Jewish lawyer Raphael Lemkin in his book Access Rule in Occupied Europe in the Wake of the Holocaust, was defined as any attempt to destroy a group, in whole or in part, based on its national, ethnic, racial, or religious identity. The 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention not only criminalizes genocide, it also obligates state parties to pursue its enforcement. The convention was adopted in response to the Holocaust as the archetypical genocide. In recent decades, there has been an expansion of the term to include a number of atrocities, well beyond the original Genocide Convention. The authors now spend a significant amount of time describing and explaining various genocides throughout the last century. It is a very good but lengthy explanation. They conclude with the 3 I's, which are essential in understanding genocide itself. This is what they write. We suggest that every tragedy that might be classified as a genocide be tested by the 3 I's: intent, implementation, and implications. The intent in such cases is to deliberately murder a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. Implementation reflects the goal of the perpetrators, the scope of the murderers, the cruelty of the perpetrators, the inability of those targeted to survive. Implication refers to the degree of damage inflicted on the victims and what possibility they have to survive/recover. Justice and historical understanding can only succeed if the historical inquiry into past tragedies is open, free from ideologically imposed censorship. This is an excellent column by Rudling and Zuroff. As an aside, Zuroff's parents were dear friends of my in-laws, and I too created a wonderful relationship with them over the years. Coming up, commentary through cartoons where pictures tell the story. I want to show you 6 cartoons today, and some are deeply troubling. That's been a theme over the last few weeks. The first cartoon is entitled Anti-Semitism Excuse. In the cartoon, Gaza is calling Israel's actions genocide, and the Israeli fighter jet is calling the protester in Gaza an anti-Semite. This is a sick parallel. To think that the Israelis, Israel, and Jews see the world in such simplistic terms is truly, simply insulting. The second cartoon is entitled Nakba, Gaza Refugees, Displacement Tents, Camps C. The Nakba is Arabic for catastrophe. It's the word used for the creation of the State of Israel. In other words, the creation of Israel is a catastrophe for the Palestinian people. The image is a sea of tents and a hand sticking out of them. Next up is a cartoon entitled Syria Liberation Day, Lifting Sanctions, Assad, Trump. It shows Syria breaking out of a brick box that they were in, becoming free of those sanctions. This fourth cartoon is entitled Genocide Volume Knob, Israel, Gaza, War Victims. Again, there's something wrong about the image that one can raise and lower the volume. That Israel is trying to lower the volume on the number of Palestinian deaths and suffering. They're trying to get to the truth, not lower the volume. This fifth cartoon is a double metaphor. It's called Trump Mideast Peacemaker, KKK Dove Oil. Trump is in a KKK hood and a cloak with an olive branch in a dove-like state coming out of the cap. He's carrying a jerry can of oil and a siphon to burn Gaza. Hunger Games is the name of the sixth and last cartoon. The cartoon is in the shape of a pot and a machine gun at the same time. The cartoon is entitled Hunger Games, War, Gaza, Starvation, Israel, Siege. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. A senior U.S. official told Al Jazeera that USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier will depart from the Middle East with no current plans to replace it with another carrier. The quote is, "Both we and the Houthis are committed to stopping mutual attacks, although they continue to attack Israel. The Israeli government does not notify us in advance of every strike in Yemen. We will maintain military reinforcements in the region and monitor developments." That's a little troubling. Technology company Microsoft has acknowledged providing emergency assistance to Israel following the October 7th attack, intended to support efforts to rescue hostages. The tech giant's admission came after a preliminary investigation conducted following protests from employees and pro-Palestinian activists into suspicions that its cloud and artificial intelligence services were used by the IDF to harm civilians in the Gaza Strip. The investigative findings showed no evidence of civilian harm, but the investigation itself revealed the company's technological involvement in the hostage rescue efforts. This is a very significant issue. The UAE's Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed discussed Gaza's future in a Fox News interview, stating, and I'm quoting here, "First and foremost, the hostages must be released." He added, "We need calm in Gaza and we need a different authority, not Hamas, to govern Gaza," bin Zayed shared, and he continued, "I recently met with Palestinian Authority officials. I think they very much want this war to end. Whether they will have a role in governing Gaza or not depends on the US, Israel, and others. But ultimately, the Palestinians, only the Palestinians, can manage the Strip," unquote. This is a big deal. IDF spokesperson Brigadier General Effie Defrin delivered a statement to the media saying that this stage in the war in Gaza against Hamas is called Operation Gideon's Chariots, is part of Iron Sword's war. Unlike the past, we are now concentrating an offensive effort in the Gaza Strip until decisive victory in areas where we operate. According to him, the IDF is operating with determination and power to achieve the war's objectives. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to attend Pope Leo XIV's inauguration ceremony, but decided against it due to concerns over the enforcement of an arrest warrant issued against him by the International Criminal Court, the ICC. During preliminary checks, inquiries were made with Italy and the Vatican whether they would allow Netanyahu to arrive without arresting him. But the responses received were not satisfactory, and it was unclear if they would honor the arrest warrants. Eventually, it was decided not to take the risk, and the Prime Minister's office chose to cancel the trip. Israeli President Isaac Herzog represented Israel at the funeral.
And even if you say goodbye, you'll never go away. You are the rainbow in my sky, my color.
Kan, an Israeli broadcast agency that televised the Eurovision Song Festival, has filed a complaint with the European Broadcasting Union against Spanish broadcaster RTVE, following the Eurovision semi-final broadcast, during which the commentators discussed Gaza during Israeli singer Yuval Dayan's clip presentation. The Spanish host also mentioned that RTVE had requested to hold discussions regarding Israel's participation in Eurovision. I predict that Israel will win this appeal. They will not overturn and overthrow the decision, but Spain will be censured for their action. It was totally inappropriate and against the rules of Eurovision.
A new day will rise.
Lebanese President Joseph Ayoun said that no one can pressure Israel except the United States. I believe Washington's intentions are positive. We called for indirect negotiations with Israel under U.S. sponsorship regarding the land border. He added that Hezbollah has no choice but to accept the concept of the state. It has the right to participate politically, but weapons must remain in the hands of the state. The Prime Minister's office, Israel's Prime Minister's office, Benjamin Netanyahu's office, announced that in a covert Mossad operation, approximately 2,500 documents, photographs, personal belongings of Mossad operative Eli Cohen, who was executed in 1965 in Damascus' Al-Marjah Square, were brought to Israel. The Prime Minister Netanyahu and the director of the Mossad, Dadi Barnea, presented several original documents and personal items from the findings recovered in Syria to Nadia Cohen, the spy's widow. Among the documents was the original will, which Cohen wrote hours before his execution. The location of his grave is still a mystery. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquante piece of information. Tzila Gez and her husband were on their way to the hospital to deliver their fourth child when she was murdered by a Palestinian terrorist. A deeply felt tragedy for the family and for all of Israel. Tzila, this young mother, was very special. The baby was in critical condition, but is now improving and should hopefully return to full health. Tzila has a handful of Instagram and YouTube videos in which she shares her inspirational outlook on life. She was so positive. Her husband summed up the tragedy of her murder saying, his child was given life and orphaned at almost the very same moment. Watch this video.
החיים הם סבל, הגיוני שנסבול. למדנו לסבול בשתיקה. למדנו שזה בסדר. עד כדי כך ששנים שלמות חולפות מחיינו, ואנחנו לא חיים את החיים כמיטב יכולתנו.
זה לא חייב להיות ככה. וואי וואי, ממש כבד. איזה רגע. אנחנו לא בוחרים את הסבל שלנו. אנחנו כן בוחרים מה לעשות איתו. יש לי רעיון. מזמן לא שתיתי קפה. ועוד קפה קר, זה אחד האהובים עליי. יאללה, הגיע הזמן. טוב, נו, זה לוקח כמה דקות להשקיע בעצמי. מותר לנו שיהיה לנו טוב. איך עושים את זה? תתחילו עם צעדים קטנים. תדאגו לעצמכם. ברגע שאנחנו דואגים לעצמנו ועושים לעצמנו טוב, אז הסבל שלנו, שאין לנו שליטה עליו, יכול לקבל פנים אחרות. יכול להשתנות, יכול לזוז. אז מה אתם אומרים? אולי תתחילו לדאוג לעצמכם. אתם לא צריכים לסבול בשתיקה. מותר לכם לחיות אחרת.
Her death is a tremendous loss, and these clips like these, are a great legacy for her children to watch, and their friends, and for all of us to watch and learn. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.